Hello. Um, I was talking to Caolan the other day, and he's just done an interview on Talk TV with I don't know who he is actually. Do I really care? But it's about Port Talbot, and Richard Tice phoned in to have it out with Caolan about whether or not the ultimate responsibility lay with Brexit or with net zero. Now, Richard Tice has been thumping on, as have many people in gbNews, about the idea that net zero is responsible for all our woes. It's like a sort of crusade, it's like a mantra: net zero, net zero, net zero, because COVID has now gone. And I think people are worrying which side they should be on with respect to Ukraine. I don't think there's any doubt about which side we should be on, by the way. And uh, Caolan went to Port Talbot. There's a very good report in Byline Times and a film, so there's evidence that he talked to people who feel betrayed by the Brexiteers, who feel betrayed by the form of Brexit that we've got. They voted for Brexit and they now feel betrayed. Why? Because the EU is imposing export and import taxes and demands on British steel that Port Talbot simply cannot meet. And the Tata people are determined to simply convert the steelworks into a different type of steelworks, so they're not going to be producing the same quality of steel, which can only be produced with a blast furnace, and they're not getting the support from the government for that original steel. And therefore, and because the new form of steel requires less people to man the furnace and get it out, there's going to be redundancies. Of course, they're upset. Tice claims that he also went down to Port Talbot and that he did his own interviews last Sunday evening, and that everybody there who he spoke to blamed the net zero drive. Well, the problem is Caolan actually bothered to record people talking, and among other people that he recorded was the former First Minister of Wales, who Richard Tice dismisses as being a Remoaner when he's asked. He just simply says, oh, well, he's such a Remoaner. That's the answer? It's not a very good answer. And Richard Tice, who's actually got an entire studio behind him, who does his own programme on gbNews, couldn't be bothered to take cameras down to Wales to talk to people, to record what they had to say about net zero or about Brexit. In the end, the evidence is there from Caolan, and the evidence isn't there from Richard Tice. Richard Tice is saying, I'm some sort of messiah. You have to believe what I say because I say it. And we have to believe that it's net zero and not Brexit because I say it. Why close the old blast furnace? Well, you close the old blast furnace because it isn't meeting the demands of Europe, and we're no longer in Europe, so we can no longer negotiate that issue. So we have to pay a tariff if we're going to export our steel into Europe. The standard is lower than the standard that Europe expects from external suppliers. We were an internal supplier, now we're an external supplier. The standards change. Perfectly reasonable. The buyer can set the demand. The buyer can say, well, I don't like the stitching here, sir. And say, well, I'm not going to pay your asking price. Fine, I'll leave you with the suit. The buyer can set the price. This is about Brexit. This is not about net zero. Net zero is about an aspiration which we want to pull back from. Brexit is about a decision that we made, and there's two parts to it, and I think it's important to remember the two parts are different. One is the decision that we made, and two is the way that it was implemented. I happen to think both were wrong, but you might think that one is worse than the other. You might think that one was good and the other one was bad. You might think both were good. If you think both were good, then talk to the people in Port Talbot. Let's have a look at what Caolan has got to say. There's a few blips on the video, but bear with it. Caolan is very calm in the face of the attacks from Richard Tice, which are baseless. Richard Tice is just being vocal and not very sound. He has no evidence. Where's his evidence?
On that altar, it's got nothing to do with Brexit whatsoever. I've been down there. I've spoken to union leaders. I've said that I should present 2,000 workers down there, our most important.
Well, Richard, you said you spent all this time down there. Where's the reporting about it? Where's your video about it? I mean, it's not me saying it's Brexit, by the way, Richard. This is the steelworkers. This is the ex-Prime Minister of Wales. This is literally everyone in the town. Where is it?
Caolan, I was down there last Sunday evening talking to a load of voters, including steelworkers, in Port Talbot. I was speaking last Sunday evening.
Richard, the only reason that people think it's net zero is because the garbage that was being put out on gbNews saying that it was all because of net zero every single minute since that plant closed, and there was nothing to really back that up. Just because we have new targets about green energy doesn't mean that that's the reason that most of our industries are failing in this country, that we're not basically serious on the world stage anymore. We can't export things like steel at the same rate we used to be able to do because of export and import taxes of the type of materials we need to get into this country. This is the steelworkers themselves who voted Brexit, your Brexit, who told me on camera, if you watch the report, that they regret that vote because it's made their jobs more unstable.
What do you say to all of that, Richard?
Caolan also mentioned about offshore wind, the renewable industry.
No, but answer that bit, Richard.
The reason that Caolan said that it's not competitive is because of the very high electricity costs. Because Caolan was making a deliberately anti-Brexit, misleading documentary.
Sorry, do you think I paid these people to say this, Richard? If you watch the video, these are steelworkers in their uniform from the steelworks in Port Talbot saying, I voted leave, I regret it, it's made my job less stable. Do you think I kind of paid them money to say that?
Okay,
do you think they're actors? Who are these people then, Richard?
Caolan, you are obsessed with Brexit.
You say that I'm obsessed with this, Richard. I'm obsessed with Brexit. I'm actually obsessed with the truth. You're obsessed with hiding Brexit and lying about it. This is what gbNews put out, constantly saying nothing has anything to do with Brexit. It's anything other than Brexit. When Steelworks closed down and everyone who works there that I spoke to on camera, which you can watch on Byline TV, say that it's because of Brexit, you don't put any... Where's your report about it? Where are your videos?
Richard, what do you say to that?
Caolan doesn't seem to understand. The steelworks is not closing down. It is demolishing the blast furnaces and replacing them with electric arc furnaces. It's extraordinary that a man who claims to have been down there and spoken to people doesn't understand that simple, basic fact. No one else around the world is building electric arc furnaces. They're not doing that in Asia because blast furnaces make stronger steel. So, Caolan, what we're now having to do is we're now going to have to import the stronger steel from blast furnaces from overseas, which is going to add even more CO2. It's the absolute definition of madness. Look, I think that Brexit is a great opportunity that they haven't yet properly taken advantage of because they haven't deregulated, they haven't got rid of unnecessary rules and regulations, and they haven't lowered...
So the kind of...
How long do you need, Richard, for it to be a great opportunity? Because that's all you ever say.
No, but is his point not that the kind of Brexit we've ended up with has resulted in this situation?
But there is no kind of Brexit that would work. There is no type of Brexit that would work. It was fundamentally a failed idea.
All right, Richard, I'll give you the final word to Caolan.
Caolan, why is Germany in recession? We might be flatlining. They're doing even worse. And yet people like you want to rejoin the failing, sclerotic European Union. Why do you want to rejoin a failing model, Caolan?
Why is it that Britain had the slowest GDP of any country, literally in the developed nations of the last couple of years? Why is our economic growth slower than any other developed nation in the West, Richard?
Germany is in recession, Caolan.
Okay, you found one other country that's not doing very well. Okay, well then Brexit's great, fantastic, great.
Germany is the biggest, it's the industrial powerhouse of the European Union. It holds up the whole EU economy. It is struggling because of
why Britain specifically? Why Britain specifically? Why did we specifically have the slowest